You ever see a company that's just at the absolute top of its game? They're listening to all their customers, they're making tons of money, they're crushing the competition, and then almost overnight, they just disappear. It's a ghost story we see all the time in business. Well, today we're digging into the book that explains why this happens. Clayton Christensen's masterpiece, The Innovator's Dilemma. I mean, this is the big, scary question, isn't it? We're talking about giants, companies like Kodak, Blockbuster, Nokia. These guys weren't failing because of bad leadership. No way. They had the smartest people, the best tech, they were doing everything right. So, what on earth went wrong? The answer is pretty shocking, and honestly, it's something anyone in business needs to understand. And there it is. That's the quote that flips the whole script. This is the central idea that just turns conventional business wisdom completely on its head. It suggests that the very things you're taught to do to be successful, like listening to your best customers and focusing on profits, can actually be the reason you fail. Wild, right? So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at this paradox of success. Then we'll unpack the two crucial types of innovation. We'll see how good management actually becomes a trap, watch what happens at the disruptive crossover, and, most importantly, figure out how you can actually escape this dilemma and build your own future. Okay, let's take a classic example. Blockbuster. What did their customers want? More stores, the newest movies on the shelves, maybe a bigger candy selection. And Blockbuster listened. They were pros at giving their customers exactly what they asked for. But that laser focus on their current customers made them totally blind to a new idea that, at first, their customers didn't want at all. To really crack this puzzle, you have to get Christensen's biggest insight, and it's this. Innovation isn't just one thing. Nope. There are two completely different kinds. And what's crazy is that companies are often built to be masters of one kind and completely helpless against the other. So on one hand, you've got sustaining innovation. This is the stuff we all know and love. It's making your phone's camera a little better, your car a little faster. It's about serving your best customers. But then there's disruptive innovation. This is the weird stuff. It's actually worse than the existing products in many ways, but it's simpler or cheaper or way more convenient. And it finds a home with a whole new type of customer. And this is the absolute key. Because these disruptive things are worse at first, the big, successful companies and their best customers look at them and just laugh. They see a toy, something not serious. It's not a threat because it doesn't solve their problems. And that, right there, is the first click of the trap. So let's walk through how this trap actually springs shut. This isn't a story about one person making one stupid mistake. It's a story about a whole series of smart, logical, totally rational decisions that add up to a complete disaster. Here's the typical playbook. Some small startup launches a clunky new product. The big company does its homework. They go to their most profitable customers and ask, "Hey, do you want this new thing that doesn't work as well?" Of course, the customers say, "Ugh, no way." Then the finance guys look at the market and see it's tiny with almost no profit. So what's the rational, good management decision? You ignore it. You focus on your real business. And it makes perfect sense every single time. And it's not just the managers. The whole company is caught in this web. You've got investors who demand steady, predictable growth in big markets. You've got your best customers demanding more features. The entire organization is a well-oiled machine designed to produce sustaining innovations. So when a weird, small, unprofitable idea comes along, the machine just naturally rejects it. It doesn't compute. But while the big company is busy making its best customers happy, that little startup with its toy isn't just standing still. Something is brewing at the bottom of the market. And this is the climax of the story. This is when the toy suddenly starts looking a whole lot scarier. So just to be clear, at the very beginning, the new tech really is worse on the metrics that matter to the mainstream. There's no debate. It's just not good enough, which makes it incredibly easy for the big company to justify ignoring it. But here's the twist. That new technology gets better. It improves along its own path. Maybe it gets radically cheaper or unbelievably convenient. And here's the kicker. It often improves at a much, much faster rate than the old technology. And then it happens. The crossover. The disruptive thing gets just good enough to pull in the least demanding customers from the main market. It establishes a beachhead. And from there, it launches a relentless march upmarket, gobbling up more and more customers. By the time the big company realizes what's happening, they're trapped at the top with a shrinking market. It's too late. I mean, Netflix is the perfect story here. Blockbuster was instant gratification. Netflix started with a 3-day wait for a DVD in the mail. For the mass market, that was a joke. But for a small niche of movie buffs who hated late fees, it was perfect. And just look at their trajectory. From no late fees to streaming to making your own award-winning shows. They became so good that Blockbuster's entire model just vanished. Okay, so this all sounds pretty grim. Is every successful company just doomed to be disrupted? Well, not necessarily. Christensen offers a powerful solution. It's not easy, but it's a way for big companies to actually harness this disruptive energy instead of getting wiped out by it. He says the only way out is to build a lifeboat. You have to create a separate, totally independent organization. It could be a new team, a spinoff, whatever. But the key is this new unit has to be completely walled off and protected from the mothership's rules, processes, and profit expectations. Its only job is to go after that new, tiny market, to get excited about small wins, and to figure out the new business model. So as a leader, you need a framework. You have to ask 3 questions. 1, is this new thing sustaining or is it disruptive? Because the game plan is completely different. 2, if it's disruptive, what's its good enough trajectory? When and where could it start to become a real threat? And 3, do we need a separate team to go after it? And if you answer disruptive to question 1, the answer here is pretty much always a huge, flashing yes. When you really get down to it, this dilemma isn't a law of nature. It's not fate. It's a failure to see what's coming. Companies get locked in by their own success, but it doesn't have to end that way, because this whole pattern is incredibly predictable once you know what to look for. And this is the lesson right here. Your biggest threat is almost never your main rival. It's the small, scrappy company you're not even paying attention to, the one with the product you think is a joke. The real danger comes from the blind spots that your own success creates. The innovator's dilemma is very real, but it is not inevitable. Once you understand this pattern, once you can see the world through this lens, you stop being a victim. You can see disruption coming. You can prepare for it. You can even use it to your advantage and become the architect of your own future. So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Look at your own world, your own job, your industry. Where are things over-engineered and too expensive? Where is a product too good for what most people actually need? And where could a simpler, cheaper, more convenient, good enough solution start to take root? Because I promise you, that's where the next big disruption is hiding.